Hello again, and we're back with the Christmas stocking. I've moved my frame, my hoop, so now, as you can see here, I've cast on, I'll just show you that, I've just cast on with a double thread, and I'm going to attempt my first long and short stitches that are then going to be soft shading in two colours on the leaf that's on the left hand side of this Christmas stocking. I've threaded up with my wool, which is the Appleton's 293, which is that nice sagey colour, and I'm going to work along doing the long and short stitches along there, starting in the middle like Phillipa did on the video. So I'm all ready to go, so let's get stitching. So now I'm just bringing my thread up at the bottom of a middle one of the longer lines that are drawn onto this printed linen, and then get my hand underneath, and then long and short. Oh, I've just realised this frame isn't tight enough, that I haven't got that nice clunk, clunk, clunk. There we go, that's better. That's a lot better. And then the short one. And another one in between, do I do? Seems to be a lot of gap there in that. Looked a lot easier when Phillipa was doing this in the video, didn't it? I've just noticed I've done Katie's trick, which is not going over the line as well. Good grief, I thought this would be a lot easier than it is. I'm going to go back there and stitch over that because that doesn't look right. So that's a short one. Then the long one didn't even look right, did it? Stitching over, as Phillipa says, just stitching over those mistakes. That's what we like to do. If I move that there, is that easy for you all to see? Pop that into the middle of the screen like this. That's a lot easier. So I'm going back to where I was working before, which is long, short, or as Phillipa says, and it seems to make sense as well, medium length, and then a long one. And that's the thing that Katie always says, follow the direction of the line. That's how she found she made it better. But this is my first attempt. I'm not quite sure if it's a very good attempt. But one of the good things about doing this stitch today is that this is what we will be doing on the hummocks at the bottom. So once you've mastered it here on this leaf, you'll be able to zoom along the hummocks. Now then, I remember what Philip was saying at the end of this one was, don't do a little short stitch, use your thumb to move that across, come up and go back into the same hole there. Pull that tight and that naturally curves. Right, then go back to here and we do a shorter stitch. It does fill the space quite quickly, doesn't it? And then there'll be a longer stitch. Oh, that's left a gap there, isn't it? So that in there. I'm going backwards and forwards here. I'm sure this isn't the right way to do it, but at least I'm covering the lines. And I think the lines of that guidance of long, short, and then if there's a gap, go back. I hope this is correct. But it does look, I know it needs to be fuller, doesn't it? So let's have a look. If I go, could I get a long and a short in there? Possibly. So if I do a short one next to that one, my theory went all out the window, and then a long one in between it, going back to the length of that one. Oh, and I'm running out of thread. Gosh, that soon went. I'll just pop that there and I'm going to cast on some more wool, and then I'm going to see if I can do it in one direction going the other way without going backwards and forwards, trying to fill in my little gaps that I've made. So we're back in a second when I've changed my wool. So I've cast on some more wool, and I'm just going to follow the short, start with a short one, go into a long one. See what Phillipa says, it looks a bit naff before, it doesn't look too good when you first start doing it, so I need another long one until you get that second layer in. So what I thought I would do with this petal, this part of the leaf here, was to do the long and short, and then do the double thread, which we're doing now, and then try the single thread with the other colour, just so that we can do that together, and then we can all go away and we can do our leaves and we can start our hummocks this weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to get this finished before the end of Christmas. Now, just thinking what Phillipa said there before about the last one, but I don't think it's the same on this one, is it? Because we've got another bit of the leaf to go. Now, I'm just going to continue, I think, because I've got plenty of wool on here. I don't have to turn too long. I'll just, rather than waste the wool, I'll just put another few stitches in here to start off that next bit. And then I'm going to try out with the other colour, the single thread. I'd love to see how everybody else is getting on with this. So if you've been stitching this, please, please, please send us some of your photographs of how it's getting on. I feel a bit lonely doing this otherwise. I want to know how everybody else is getting on, and probably learn some tricks and tips from you too. So it's quite nice. This is the first thing I've ever done in crewel work. And though my mum was a seamstress, she was a tailoress and made all my clothes for me when I was so spoilt when I was a child, and I didn't even realise it. I had new clothes all the time that she'd made. I've never really taken it up myself. I like knitting, but this is really, really enjoyable, and I'm sure my mum would have enjoyed doing this, and she would be laughing now if she could see me doing it. So I'll snip this off, and we're back in a second with a single thread. Well, I've just threaded my needle that's for the single thread, and I've done that with this lovely colour here, which is from Appleton's, and it's the 244 wool. And now I've actually cast on with a seeding stitch. As Phillipa says, I'm going into the middle, right in the middle of the first colour, coming up. Then she said to lay the wool down to where it needs to meet the end. Oh, that's a really long one. Wow, that's a very long needle thread. And then a shorter one. Oh, it's not so easy to get through all this wool. Laying it down to where it needs to go. Should be there maybe. And then continue like that. I know it's sort of like she just say go quite high up to get that shading in. Long, short, long, gosh, going to run out of this wool quite quickly. I can see it building up. I can see, yeah, it does. You can see the colours blending in. With it being single thread though, it doesn't have that same density. It's really interesting to see how different it reacts when you're doing it single thread. Just have to cast off. Oops. Get another little stitch to do that before my wool comes off. Oh, can pull that through. That's come through. So I'll be casting on now with some more of this beautiful wool from Appleton's, and I'll come back when I finish this bit here. Well, I'm just putting my last stitch, single thread stitch in the second colour into this leaf, and I'm really surprised how quickly it filled up with even in a single thread. So I'm really pleased how quickly it goes. I'm sure this is probably the worst soft shading that Phillipa has ever seen, but for me, I'm really pleased that I've actually, there is some change in the colour there. I can see how it's blending the colours together, and I'm sure I'll get better as I move along this leaf here and do that, and then we move on to the hummocks. And it's always that thing that Phillipa says, you work from the background to the foreground. So I'm going to continue with this leaf, and then what I'm going to do next after I finish this leaf, use the same stitch and move on to the hummocks here. And this is the back hill, so I'll be doing that hill first, then that hill, and then that hill. Of course, I'll be moving my frame to be able to do that. Well, I hope you're finding the soft, long and short stitch as soft shading as enjoyable as I am. I just wanted to confess, I have a confession to make, that when I set this frame up, when I moved it again, I put the screw bit, the opposite end to where it goes into the paddle. And Phillipa always suggests that you have all these things at one side. So when I finish this leaf here and I move the frame again, I'll make sure that this bit is to my tummy side. So I hope you enjoy doing your leaf, and I hope you enjoy starting the hummocks, and I'll be back soon to have a look at how we start doing the stag, and also just recap on the hummocks. So speak to you later. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your stitching.